Viewers, Jeff McCree's Gardening, Melbourne, Australia. Are you concerned when the drought comes, the crispy, dry lawns, and there's no work? The customers are delaying you because there's nothing to cut. Are you struggling? Are you concerned that your business might fail? Well, I've got some tips today in this video. Stay tuned and I'll go through some of the things I do over my 4 decades to help get through this worrying times. And look, it's raining. We haven't had much rain in Melbourne, but we're finally getting some more. We really need it badly. We take it for granted, but it really is the survival of our business, this stuff that I think it's called rain falling from the sky. Now, if all our customers had green grass like this, and I've got quite a few customers that are in that situation because they irrigate, but of course it's not possible that all customers do that. Now check out these customers today that I was mowing, how dry it is. They don't want to spend money on water. And that's the problem during a drought, a dry season, where work really dries up, so to speak. A lot of people don't want to spend money on water. And in Melbourne, we pay a fair dollar for water. I think my last quarter bill, or I think it was 2 months bill, was $650 just for water. And that was recycled water too. Now, as you can see, it helps having a green lawn, but of course, not all customers are going to play ball that way. So when we venture out into this great industry of ours, lawn care business, we start out guns blazing. We're going out and get as many customers as we can, and we're mowing lawns. We don't think about anything else. But when a drought hits, or where the weather conditions dry up, the lawns start to brown off. There's not as much mowing to do. Customers are ringing saying it really doesn't need doing this time. Make it till the next time. And slowly and slowly you're losing more customers. This is what happens to a lot of business. They struggle. I went through the same process in my early days. We had a 10-year drought back then. And coupled with that, we weren't allowed to water the gardens. We weren't allowed to use the water. That's how restrictive our water was at the time. So it was really, really tough. And that's where I'll talk about this later on in the video, about alternatives and what else we can do to combat these problems. It's a bit hard at the moment when you try to explain to people how serious it can affect your business. Because for years we haven't had extensive droughts. We might have had a few dry times, but generally it's been pretty good. There's been plenty of grass to cut. So if you're not prepared, and when it does happen, it could actually ruin your business. So in this video, I want to explain how I went about preparing and getting through these tough times. It may never happen, but you really need to understand what to do if it does. And it also applies not only to droughts or dry conditions, it applies to the slow seasons, mowing grass in the winter periods. Not much to mow in Australia. Northern hemispheres, none to mow. So there's alternatives that you've got to look at to survive in this business. Of course, when we do get these droughts and dry seasons and slow seasons, we've got to think outside of the box. We're not just only the lawnmower guy. We are going to diversify our skills in all aspects of gardening. I've mentioned this over many, many videos about diversification is the road to success. So if you can offer all these other services, it's going to make a tremendous difference. But getting back to the lawn care itself, the most important thing is communication with your customer. There's a couple little tricks that I fell for, and I know a lot of other people do, is that quite often you'll ring the client to say that you're coming. Now, with in fact, all of my clients, I don't need to contact them because I have keys to the gate. I have free access. Payment is through the EFT, electronic funds transfer. So I don't really need to see the customer. So it's not important that I need to ring them. But if I ring them every time during dry conditions, drought conditions, that's going to give them a way to say, oh, look, Jeff, let's wait till next time. Let's wait till next time. And if you get half a dozen or a dozen customers that are doing that, that's a big hit to your revenue. Now, I'm not saying you're ripping the person off because you're cutting dead grass. A lot of customers still like their grass mown, the leaves, it just still looks tidy, the edges, etc. So there's still opportunities to keep going with your lawn care. But there's a lot of things that we can do during this period to help survive through this time. One thing I have done with most of my lawns is I offer a 4 times a year slow release fertiliser program, so that the grass is strong, the grass is surviving well. Another important thing, especially in dry, is to apply a wetter soil. I use a seaweed based one, and that helps the penetration of water when it finally does come. Ideally, of course, if you can have your clients having an irrigation system, that's nice. Look, I've got a few, I've installed a few, but not every customer is going to be able to do that. Quite expensive, and not every contractor has the ability to do that as well. So sometimes that's not possible. Although you may supply sprinklers and hoses and timers so that the client can water the lawn at least once a week. A good soaking of water once a week is better than nothing at all. Whether they're in for that or not, who knows? But at least you're trying something. Of course, there's many things outside of the garden area that you can do, the lawn that you can do, of course, the hedging, the rejuvenation of the garden beds, etc. That's quite obvious, but you need to be able to look into that, and every time that you've got your client and you're mowing the lawns, that you're always looking around and thinking about upselling of other aspects of what's going on. So important, especially to look forward, look at the weather predictions. There's going to be a drought next summer. Okay, we're going into autumn, winter. Why would I worry about it? It's so important now to establish that communication with your client, to start thinking about, getting close to the client, saying, let's upsell some mulching. We make sure the garden beds are well mulched before the summer comes in. Putting in a dripper system in the garden beds, for example. Applying a lawn care treatment, aeration, fertilisation, wetter soil. Just those basic aspects of the lawn at the start of the summer period will help it go a long way. Plus, the client's going to end up with a fairly nice looking lawn. Of course, there's going to be the customers, and many of them, I've got them too, is that they've just got a crappy lawn. Probably wouldn't call it grass, it'd probably be called weeds. And I guess that's all you're mowing in the summertime is the weeds. And mind you, spraying weeds in the summer is probably not effective because the weeds are harder to kill in the summer period, the dry conditions, than they are in the growing season, because that's the time when you must treat, the cape weeds, all the different variety of weeds in the growing season. Middle of summer, not as effective. But it can be a godsend, can't it? You can still mow, and it's, because there's little white daisies popping up everywhere, or straggly bits of weeds in the lawn, and that's mowing. Look, they are for the people that really don't care much about the lawn. They just want to make it looking tidy. For the ones that we want the beautiful lawn, of course, we're going to have all that taken control of prior to the season starting. Keeping the lines of communication open during this dry period or the slow season is important with the client. Looking at other aspects other than lawns in the garden. Looking at treating the lawn during the prior, during and after. All these will get you through these hard times. It can be a real challenge, and I've seen a lot of people walk away from the industry. But look at this advantage. When there is a severe drought and you do survive, a lot of the others don't because they're not prepared for it. If you're prepared, you may find yourself inundated with work because there is less contractors available to do the work. I've seen that over 4 decades, time and time again. It's really amazing that a lot of people just give up. But if you prepare, you look ahead of what else you can do or what you can do to help you get through this time, you're going to go a long way. Thanks, viewers. Like to hear your comments. How do you go through dry periods? Do you really worry about it? Have you got enough clientele to, got all the irrigation if you're that fortunate? I don't think there's many in our area, I know for a fact. There's only a handful of clients in certain rounds that actually go to that trouble. But irregardless, you can still get through this. See you on the next video. Bye.